We've always been taught to view child prostitution as these kids being the victim, and in fact, she was the only one who was together in that film and had control over her life.
You agree?
Yep. When Violet at the end looks right down the barrel of the lens, she turns the gaze back right onto the voyeur and says, "Oh yeah, how about this? How about this? How about I've been the one looking at you the whole time." And honestly, to this day, I think it's the best film I've ever been in, for sure.
Pretty Baby drew attention to Brooke in a way that may be unique in the history of American cinema. She became an indisputable 11-year-old sex symbol. And then the pace accelerated in 1980. Brooke is intimately, and I use the word advisedly, connected with the history of designer jeans. How old were you when Calvin Klein chose you as the spokesperson for his Calvins?
I was 15.
And what was the famous slogan?
Do you want to know what comes between me and my Calvins? Nothing. I was completely blindsided at the double entendre.
The whole idea of her in those jeans with nothing else on had the world gaga.
That's what you take from it, that?
There you were up on the posters.
You are so sweet. I love you.
Well, while on the subject, I've loved you since you were 15 years old, when it was illegal. But so did millions of other people you see. What high school did you go to?
I went to a high school in New Jersey called Dwight Englewood.
Did the other students treat you like one of them?
Not initially. People avoided me. I had to throw a party and invite them all and kind of say, like, you know, can you be my friend? Like, please, let's be friends.
Yeah.
This is not, you know, I'll be nice. I don't know. I mean, it was, but part of the lack of, you know, my social life was probably why I ended up becoming such a good student, because I threw myself into my studies like I always did. I mean, I did the same thing in college, you know.
The motion picture industries and the public's fascination with Brooke and with her adolescence reached a pinnacle with The Blue Lagoon. Roger Ebert, who had hailed your performance in Pretty Baby, recoiled this time. What story does it tell?
First love, young children.
First everything.
First everything. First
it chronicled everything. It went
did.
through it by the book.
Mm-hmm. It dealt with menstruation and childbirth and that sort of change that happens.
They're marooned on an island, two children.
Two children.
And they grow up together and they must discover all of these things.
Au naturel.
Au naturel. They very seldom wear clothes. Once again, the world was watching you grow up.
Well, they were watching me pretend that I was growing up. Never once was I bringing any natural experience to it.
These roles called for you to grow up sexually and emotionally in front of the world.
But I think then I became even more avaricious in my desire to preserve it. So there was this absolute divide. I became so guarded of my own body, my own self, my own emotions. I became this sort of very compartmentalized, you know, actress for sure, which, you know, was not to my benefit, but it was what I had no other way to survive, I think.
In 1981, Time magazine had Brooke on the cover, the face of the 80s. That was
Who
it.
decides that? I never could really translate that in my mind or in my psyche into meaning anything.
I see.
What am I supposed to do? Look in the mirror and see that? And so there's a huge disconnect. And I couldn't, and I wouldn't look in the mirror most of the time. And people would do my makeup and they'd say, well, don't you want to look at it, see how you look? I'm like, no, it's good, it's good. Because everybody else was looking at me. You know, why add another person looking at me? Kids were getting offered money, you know, to take pictures of me in the shower.
We've arrived at the spring of 1981, when, as executive producer of Bob Hope's annual birthday special on NBC, I cast a young woman who was just shy of her 16th birthday. She was 15 years old and world famous. And for the next 9 years, she was as much a fixture of his birthday show as he was, and I was the executive producer of those shows. Those were extraordinary years that I have recently memorialized in my book, Inside Inside. One of my favorite recollections didn't make it into the book for a reason. Maybe if Brooke wishes, this is the time for it. It takes place at the Pensacola Naval Air Station. It's your call. Is it time?
Yeah, okay.
When Brooke was 20, she wrote a book called On Your Own. And in the book, she made a great point of her virginity.
Someone thought it was a good idea to put it in print.
She became, even more than before, the target of this vast international lust. I'm about to make a fateful confession. And that is that as this sweepstakes began to nullify Brooke's pledge in the book, I entered the lists, in a manner of speaking, only in a manner of speaking. I confess, with no pride, that I chose Brooke's escort at the Pensacola Air Station with great care, in the hope, but not necessarily the expectation, that I would at least by proxy win that sweepstakes. Her escort was a young Marine captain, a fighter pilot.
He's beautiful.
Oh, God, was he beautiful.
Eyes.
Even I thought. Now, that led me to wonder whether by any chance I had won the sweepstakes. And was, in a manner of speaking only, of course, the first. It's time to find out whether I won or not. I am asking you in the interest of the craft that is the subject of this series, the exclusive subject of this series. Do you think I could know now? Did I come in first?
You came in second. A really close second with neck and neck.
So near and yet so far. I was second.
Yeah, you said, yeah, it was not quite a tie, but that would have been awkward.
A few weeks after the show, this splendid young fellow got into his fighter plane and flew up to New York. He brought something with him to give to Brooke, and I have waited all these years. And here it is, her wings. She earned her wings. And he brought it for her. Here you are, Brooke. You earned your wings.
I've earned my wings. Thank you. I think it'll actually say. There we go. Oh, man. So sweet.
In 1983, Brooke stepped back from an enormously glamorous and profitable life and attended Princeton for 4 years. What made you decide to do it?
I wanted to be a part of something that was so far from anything that I had ever known.
What was your